or your coterie,
Yeah, fine.
you know,
Well, fine. If wants this coterie to speak, that's fine, but they have to like actually
be business
raise
owners.
their hand.
Yeah.
Be business owners.
Yeah.
Okay, I assume people will continue to join the meeting, and Alan, you can admit them as they come in. But we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mayor David Narkowitz of the City of Northampton, and thank you for joining this town hall that we've set up for downtown businesses related to the Shared Streets and Spaces program. Obviously, by way of quick background, the city began focusing on creating more outdoor space in downtown back in April and May as the governor's reopening phases began to indicate that there would be an early emphasis on outdoor dining, as well as obviously the mask orders and requirements around social distancing for downtown. We obtained some grants from private foundations to begin doing some of the design work, and you probably noted in May, we were able to quickly stand up some outdoor spaces on Lower Main Street and on some of our side streets, including Strong Avenue, Market Street, where Joe's Cafe is, and then concurrent with that, the state made available this Shared Streets and Spaces grant with a fairly quick turnaround, understanding that communities were working hard to set up and create more safe spaces in their downtown for social distancing. And so we applied to receive funding to support those efforts for the rest of Main Street. And we put out a press release about receiving the grant and created a web page about it. We held a similar town hall meeting and worked with the DNA and chamber to try to get the word out to downtown businesses. That was on August 16th, and then we did the implementation, as you know, beginning on the 20th of August. This has been set up to be a temporary configuration. All of the markings and lines are intended to be temporary and movable. We utilized, obviously, Jersey barriers and planters and tape, the white pavement tape in some cases. Obviously, we did enlist the help of local artists to help us create public art in the public spaces that we were creating, but we did not include painting any of the parking lines, with the understanding that when warmer weather left us and we turned back to colder weather, that we'd be able to reverse this. So obviously we expected and wanted feedback on it, and set up informational signs all throughout the project with ways to provide feedback. We obviously immediately began receiving feedback in the form of petitions and actually dueling petitions. And I've gotten lots of one-on-one feedback and gone out and done some one-on-one conversations with folks. And one of the things that I asked when I went out around to talk to folks was give it a chance, give folks a chance to get used to it and adapt to it. And then we would, convene a meeting where I could get some feedback, particularly from downtown business owners, about the project. And so that's the purpose of today's meeting. What I'd like to do is I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to give feedback and give their comments. And we've got a 90-minute window here. So what I would ask folks to do who want to give feedback on the project would be to use the raise hand function on Zoom, which is in your participant list. You have the ability to raise your hand. It's a little hand symbol. If you're calling in by phone, star 9 will actually activate the raised hand function. And so what I basically want to do is open it up and hear people's feedback. And I would ask people to be mindful of the time. We've got 63 people on the call. I don't know that all 63 are offering comment, but just want people to be mindful of that, and so that we can make sure that everyone has an opportunity. And obviously, people who weren't able to attend today always have the opportunity to email me or provide feedback, by phone or by email. So I guess my question would be, I would ask people to do their, anyone who wishes to speak, to go ahead and raise their hand on the call, and we will start hearing from folks. Okay, so first person whose hand is raised is Peter. So Peter, I'll ask you to unmute. You should be able to unmute at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some housekeeping. We do have multiple people in this location that wish to speak, so how would you like to handle that? To rotate them through?
So they're standing there with you? Okay.
Business owners, people, there's prepared statements. We have multiple people that are going to use this computer.
Okay. And I hope they're all wearing masks, I hope, and are socially distancing. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, certainly if they want to queue up and do that, that's fine. We can just queue them up that way. Again, I would just ask them to be mindful of the time so that we allow everyone an opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. I will have them swap in. They'll sit down, they'll raise their hand, and then we can do it that way, I suppose, if you're okay. All right. I will speak, if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to explain how we ended up here. The current state of affairs is we are experiencing the worst economic and health crisis of our lifetime. Regardless of how good the plan was or its perceived benefit, now is not the time to conduct such a thing. Everything was weakened, and we went ahead and did it anyway. Not only that, we were blindsided. Some of us received flyers a day or two before, but many of us realized there were changes occurring when we tried to get to work and Main Street was closed. What's troubling is the amount of data and input that was discarded when it didn't support this project. Objections and concerns were raised during meetings that did occur. Those were glossed over. And more troubling still are the studies conducted in 2015, 2017, which clearly state the importance of on-street parking to commerce in downtown, with the #1 factor being proximity to destination. So the city knew how important the parking was in downtown, and it was removed anyway. You knew it was going to do damage, and you did it anyway. And we need to know why that happened. In terms of feedback, when the totality of this project is taken into consideration, there are very few people, business and in community at large, that are willing to accept the costs of it. What are the costs? We have completely abandoned our handicapped, our disabled, our mobility challenged community members. This is not accessible for anybody with issue. In front of my store, the sidewalk has been extended almost 20 feet, maybe more. With somebody that has trouble walking, this is impossible. The street itself is not safe. What I mean by that is if there are parked cars, if there are slow or stop traffic, which is common because there is one lane, if there is one disabled vehicle, if there is one delivery truck, EMS, fire, and police cannot traverse the road. Business is the heart of the city. What is better for business? More people or less people? This is not a complex concept. You've gutted the potential for volume of people in the city, ease of which it is navigated. And because we don't agree, because we haven't just laid down, we have been ignored, dismissed, gaslit, and threatened because we're not willing to sacrifice our livelihoods for this nonsense project. Let me explain something to you. A business is a person. A business are people. They have families. You don't get to attack the ability for us to provide for people we care about and not expect us to fight you tooth and nail. I am not willing to sacrifice one member of my community for this failed project, not one. That is why we are here. That is all.
Mayor, you're muted.
I guess I just wanted to, not going to try to respond to everything that was said there, but I guess I want to emphasize that the goal of this project was to support the economic recovery of downtown and to bring more people safely downtown by providing more space to social distance. We know that the 5 colleges are not coming back in session. We know that we have to rely on enticing our residents to come downtown. So that was the goal of the project as part of economic recovery. And so there was no interest in being oppositional with downtown businesses. We were working to support downtown businesses by making it safer for people to come downtown. So I guess I want to make that clear. and obviously that's the goal of the project. So, and I guess I would also say in terms of emergency vehicles, I talked to Chief Davin yesterday. They've had no trouble traversing Main Street during the last 3 weeks whatsoever. And in fact, we worked with our public safety teams. We actually brought the ladder truck down as we were setting up the configuration. The ladder truck is the largest piece of apparatus that the fire rescue department has. And we actually drove it around and drove it through all of the turns, and we actually made adjustments to make sure that the ladder truck would be able to make it through. Accessibility, we've maintained all of the accessible parking spaces, etc. So I will, looks like we have someone else queued up to speak. So I will ask that person to unmute. You're unmuted.
Hi, Mayor. I've been invited by the business people to be here today. And I do know that you had made a statement in regards to that you were not the one who was responsible for the communication to get out to all the businesses, correct? You did not handle that part of it. As far as the flyers and so forth?
I take full responsibility for the project, for the decision. I made the decision. And obviously my administration was involved in the communication, the flyering, the website, the press release, the Zoom town hall. So I ultimately, I may not have been the one handing out the flyers, but I take responsibility for that.
Okay. Hearing from so many business people, 60%, which are your executive director, assistant to you, went out and did 60%, I think Alan had stated. And then we have another 40% where there was a lack of transparency and communication. I have to say, just hearing many, many businesses, Mayor, of them really being upset with no transparency and communication given to many of them. I myself, I love the way the bicycle area has been put in place, but there is concerns here, Mayor. Many of the businesses we are losing in our city. And then now we have parking taken away from our local businesses. They are trying to survive, many of them. And this is, apparently, this is not working, Mayor. And I know it's only a trial basis that you're doing, but I know you as a mayor for a long time. And you do listen, and I'm hoping that today you work out something where there's total communication to work with the businesses that are struggling. We need to keep these businesses. They are the ones who make our city vibrant. They are just above, trying to get above water, and they're not. And they're losing customers, and that's great concerns here in the city. And I know you. And I know that you will attempt to do the best you can to solve what is happening here. We need to get our businesses back on their feet. I think the timing was wrong. That's my feelings, and I'm hearing it also from many people. I've heard from residents, the bicyclists. Yes, they love it. I understand that. I think it's great that we had volunteers, just like our council president, Gina Louise Scherer, and her family were out there painting. That was advertised in the paper for volunteers. My main concern is we can't afford to keep losing more businesses. It's our job as city government to keep our business in place and help them in any way we can. We need to get back to the original plan and all get together, work together to make it happen again, Mayor, at the appropriate time. And I thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Councilor. Again, I would just respond that I'm completely mindful of COVID-19, obviously, and COVID-19 is the reason why we were doing the social distancing, the reason we were doing the creating more space, and obviously we've been working hard to try to support downtown businesses. So this was not intended in any way to slight businesses or to ignore businesses. It was actually intended to try to bring more people safely back to downtown. So I will now, it looks like another speaker has queued up at the pavilion, and I will ask them to unmute and state their name.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Constantine Sierros, and I own Philos Greek Taverna next to the Edwards Church on Main Street. I'm also a property owner. I have the building that Shop Therapy is in, and I'm also representing their opinion as well as a tenant of mine, and also Synergy Clothing as also a tenant of mine. So I'm coming from various positions in Northampton. So I'm writing this today to respond to those individuals who are claiming that the changes made to Northampton streets were successful, working, and have a positive impact on business. I can tell you from my opinion, this is not the case. The false sense of success with these structural changes is nothing more than that, a false sense. What is happening is perceived illusion of success based on desires attempting to achieve a sustainable pedestrian economy for a town that has virtually no pedestrians in it at the moment. This extremely limited pedestrian traffic is in no way enough to sustain our livelihood in the long term. If Smith College was in session, I think it would have been a little bit different, or maybe even a lot different, but it's not, and this is our new reality. People talk of the new reality. The restaurants have been reduced, and I will speak from my personal experiences. They have been reduced to nothing more than production and distribution centers of food. It's basically how fast can I get in and out of your space. Contactless options are the norm, and pickups are expected to be conducted seamlessly from the internet to the trunk of your car as they wait outside. Anything being labeled as positive, coming and removing the parking spots, are attributed to a new downtown label, are nothing more than the results of lucky weather. This rarity of favorable New England weather has created options for people to be able to sit outside, but not sustainable options. Not now, now that the weather's going to change. It is also very important to understand that this is still the honeymoon stage of the project. Supporters of this change have ridden their bicycles back and forth and picked up their burritos and gyros along the way. And for that, I humbly thank you for that. I thank the artists, the tenants, and the people that are employed in these and that work on Main Street. They're the lifeblood of what it means to support local. But unfortunately, they are not enough. Not now, not during this pandemic. Praising or considering any of these changes downtown is a positive, especially engaging it. Today's results for future success is absolutely unacceptable and wrong. And I hope it doesn't hold a realistic view of what downtown will look like in the future, which is primarily the biggest concern. I know these barriers are going to come down. I'm grateful they're going to come down. The sooner the better. But please, dear God, do not expect that this can go on in the future in some trial process now that's going to reflect what we have coming down the pike. This short-term success in anything with outdoor dining and the ability to use it was, again, based on fortuitous weather. And for this good weather, we are grateful. For the support of walking and bicyclists, we are grateful. And for this opportunity to express our grievances, we are grateful. And when I describe my personal hardships to somebody, and I said that you, Mayor, have been extremely grateful in accommodating me and our business personally by removing one of the barriers back in order to help with curbside pickup, I am grateful. But the friend that I talked to, he said to me, basically what the town did was take food out of your mouth and then give you crumbs. And that is what you call grateful? It shook me. And then I thought of it, was grateful enough? Are we not a community? Because I was accommodated and necessarily needed to be accommodated to survive in front of Philos with curbside pickup, I think that this situation is just a reflection of what needs to be done with everybody. These barriers have to be taken down. The sooner the better. Philos Greek Taverna succeeds when all businesses succeed and what brings people into town. What was created downtown was wrong and non-sustainable. I strongly urge the town to reconsider their options of doing this again in the future. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Thank you very much, Constantine. And we have made other, he mentioned our moving some barriers. We have made other adjustments along the way as people have requested tweaks. And we've added more blocks in some cases on Strong Avenue as people have requested them, and on Masonic Street. So we've both expanded and contracted, and part of what I hope I can hear today as well is, are there ways that we can make modifications that would solve specific problems as well along the way? So is there another business owner that's queuing up to speak? Looks like there is. Okay. Yes, you can speak.
Okay, hello, Mayor.
If you could just identify yourself, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm Cindy Kernicki, and I'm actually a manager, not an owner at Hanush Jewelers. And what I'd like to bring to the table today is, when we took the store over 21 years ago from being franchised, no one even knew we were here. So what did I have to do to bring business to town? One of the biggest things, with me being in my company 35 years, I had a following, but no one could find us. And then the second thing is, there's no parking. So for 20 years we've been here, it's isolated that the parking is the biggest problem of how we can't have repeat business, or people just leave. A lot of people have trucks, bigger cars, they can't park. So if 50% of the people polled over and over again say parking is the biggest problem, I'm not sure how this is helping. I will say I understand the fact that we're trying to beautify the city, we're trying to do all of these things. However, again, timing on COVID, the heels of COVID, first of all, and secondly, not being noticed and having it done on a Thursday instead of a Monday, which just killed that weekend, we're struggling to survive. I don't own the place, but you know, our business is down so much. How do we stay open? It's a fortress almost to get to us. And with our clientele, we have a broad range of clientele, but a lot of our regulars are older, so they can't get in the store anymore. So I applaud the fact that someone's trying to make Northampton beautiful. I understand all that, but in the long run, we're dying. And the thing I could think of, you know, I had some old phrases like, we're drowning and need life preservers, and a boat came out to rescue us, and the boat said, hey, we don't have the life preservers in this boat, but we have this other thing happening. Like the urgency, the triage thing is, we needed immediate triage from COVID-19, and we didn't get put into the hospital, get the right doctors for us. So I understand it's here. I understand it's going to be removed. You know, it's a trial, but faster can't be better. And I'm happy that I was able to speak. And I think the repetition is probably really sinking in that we love the town. We want to survive. We want to be here. You know, I live from Springfield. I come in and I want whatever's best for Northampton, for all these businesses to stay open. Thank you, Mayor, for listening.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing your comments. I appreciate it. So I think there's another business person who's queuing up. I guess I would only add that in you know, one of the things we've tried to emphasize is our off-street parking. This has been, I mean, that was actually the essence of the 2015 study, was that people spend a lot of time driving around in circles trying to find parking on Main Street, and they can't. So one of the things we did as part of in response to the study was we changed the timing of our off-street lots. We changed our pricing. We changed to different mobile apps to try to make it more convenient. But the issue of, and actually the study recommended that we raise the rates on Main Street to $1.50 and extend it till 8 p.m., which of course met with great opposition. So we didn't move forward with that. But the Main Street parking is obviously parking that people ideally would like to be able to park right in front of a store. But even before COVID and even before this, that has been an issue that we've been trying to address. And so we've been dealing with putting up signage. We did a whole wayfinding campaign to put up better signage to identify where our lots are. We're bringing online, as part of this project, 3 digital signs that will alert people coming into the city about the occupancy in the parking garage, which is still the least expensive and least punitive way to park in Northampton. You can't get a ticket. And so, these are some of the challenges we're facing. But again, I want to emphasize, particularly in that stretch where Hanoush is, we didn't remove any parking where Hanoush is located. We basically just pushed the parallel parking out. But we still need to emphasize that we have off-street parking capacity, and that's one of the things we also have to focus on. But I appreciate that concern. The next person queued up, I'll unmute you. You have to, there you go.
Hi, my name is Susan Grant. My husband and I own several multifamily houses in Northampton, and we have lived at our present address near downtown for 40 years. I wish very much that this whole project would be immediately dismantled and Main Street returned to the way it was originally, for 3 reasons. The first is that as it stands, it is extremely impractical. There may not be many less parking spaces, but they are far harder to maneuver your car in and out of because they are now almost right in the middle of the traffic. Additionally, the parking used to have a lot more diagonal spaces. And speaking as someone who has a tough time parking our van, I really appreciated those diagonal spaces, and they seem to have been greatly reduced. The wish of most people who go shopping in downtown, including me, is to be able to easily get into one of the nice stores or great restaurants that we have here on Main Street. It is much less easy than it was because of the horrible rearrangement with the parking. My second reason for wishing that this be undone as soon as possible is that it is very unpleasant to look at. It reminds me of a street fair that has gone on way too long and that has scattered pots of flowers hither and thither. It looks cluttered, it looks messy, and I think it's extremely unsafe because if somebody is careless driving and bangs into one of these pots of flowers, it's not going to stop them. It's just going to knock the pots of flowers over. And my third reason for asking that this be undone immediately rather than later or at some point in the distant future is that the way this was imposed strikes me as extremely undemocratic. When a regular person wants to do something in their own yard or on their own house that might have an influence on the neighborhood, they have to get a permit from the city, and usually there has to be a notification to all the abutters, so the abutters can come and say whether they like it or not. And if they don't like it, why they don't like it. And sometimes the hearing board agrees with them, and sometimes they don't. Nothing like that happened here. It was announced as a fiat, as if this were a dictatorship. It is not the way that business should be conducted in a democracy. And I strongly urge the city to undo what it has done immediately and not to redo it again ever.
Mayor, you're muted.
Another business owner that's trying to speak, Jim Winston, I think is trying to speak, but I don't know if he's on phone or where he is. Alan, can you tell me, is Jim on a phone or how? I don't see him on the list. You say he's trying to speak.
Oh, he's right down there. Hang on, let me see if I can unmute him.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
So just one
Thank
moment
you.
to the person waiting there at the podium. Just 1 second. Go ahead, Jim.
okay, thank you, Mayor. So my name is James Winston. So I am a business owner. I have a law office on Main Street, but I also am a property owner. My family owns the Bank of America building, 142, 144 Main Street. So also talking a couple capacities. First, as a owner with a tenant, I know the bank's not happy with it. They told me that I think the first week they witnessed 4 different accidents, like minor bumper accidents, just people not used to this new parallel parking in front. As you recall, we had a Zoom meeting about a week before this started, and I expressed my concerns. I was talking a lot about the safety issues, and I heard what you said about the emergency vehicles, the tests going through. I mean, just from my viewpoint, I've seen a number of times where emergency vehicles have had to go into the other lanes to get by because where we had 2 passing lanes, now we have 1 passing lane and the other is a permanent parked cars. So those cars that are in the passing lane can't get over to where the parked cars are. Those parked cars, by the way, always now give the illusion of a permanent parking jam because that used to be a free road of cars to park, and now they can't. So that is an issue. The parallel parking, absolutely, I echo what I think the previous caller was saying, that it is more difficult to navigate parallel parking than parking straight in. Another safety issue, I just wanted to I haven't heard this, but it is a concern. So with the parallel parking, if you're parked, say, in front of the Thorns Bank of America, when the driver gets out, you're actually getting out now with cars coming on your left. You're actually opening your car door with cars passing you, which is, in my opinion, and I think most people would agree, far more dangerous than the parking that we used to have, where you would park diagonally and you'd be opening your car door to the car next to you, not to a streaming line of cars. So I think that's terrible, the way it's designed now. I think the road is very, very narrow. And I know this is only temporary, and hopefully by the time it gets taken down, we won't have a snowstorm. But as you recall, every time we have a snowstorm, the DPW plows the snow into the middle of Main Street until they can remove that. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to do that now. I do, I've read some letters to the editor. I know some people, especially bikers, have been in favor of this. But I mean, in terms of the parking downtown, it's really limited it. I think it's been problematic, and I'm hoping you'll listen to the business owners, the property owners downtown, because unfortunately, if they're not happy, the only way they can vote is by closing. That's their only thing they can do, and we're just in danger of losing more businesses. We already have too many empty storefronts on Main Street. So I would again ask if as soon as I know there was a grant, so I don't know if this project has to be kept open until November, but if not, I would definitely move to have this taken down much sooner, restored to the way it was, and hopefully we don't revisit this in the future. This part of Main Street was never meant to be one way. It's not like Cummington or Goshen where you can get by with 1 lane each way. You need 2 lanes in the heart of Main Street. It's just the way it really needs to be for business and for parking. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your comments. So now the person who's queued up at the kiosk, I'll ask you to unmute.
Good morning, Mayor. I'm Lisa Greco from the Baker's Pin. I'm a homeowner in town. I have a child in school in town or not in school in town. And I run a business here. I'm here because we were not given ample notice. I have been a member of the community for 20+ years. I fill out all the surveys that come from the Planning Commission. I pay attention to things that have been going on for the past 10, 20 years. What I've seen are the programs. I've seen this planning for the city streets for years. I filled out the survey, how I thought about widening the streets, how I thought about temporary parks. So I saw this coming. And then we got 36-hour notice of a Zoom meeting telling us your plan, and then it came in. We didn't actually see the plan come in and get a robocall that it was happening on a Thursday. That's not enough time. There's not enough feedback. This is a long-term project that's been planned, that you utilized in a very small window when we couldn't act or have a voice. I'm too busy. I work 6+ days a week. I've had 2 days off this month or since through August. I don't have time to maintain my public political position on this. I'm trusting you to make the town work, not cause more roadblocks. So this project that might work when economies are good, they don't work now. So I am lucky, I do have pedestrian customers. Other folks don't. And I don't think this took in the full spectrum of the customer base we actually have. It does take care of our Florence customers, our Northampton customers. It does not take care of my customers coming from Ashfield, Cummington, Long Meadow, Connecticut. Those are the people who are coming for day trips to shop, because my store is a destination store. You can't get things that I sell just anywhere. And when I have someone coming, which I did on the Friday of the project, come into the store that they haven't been out because of COVID, and it's going to be a heck of a long time before they come back into this town because what they just saw. Can't have that. Can't lose my customers. I think you need to understand that I've been paying attention and we're not happy, and I'm not going to continue to support an administration that doesn't take the full picture. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. So I don't know, is there another person queuing up? I can't tell. Let's see.
There's other, Linda Daniels.
Oh, we've got someone queuing up. So go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Good morning. My name is Anna Bowen, and I am a property owner in Florence and also the proprietor of Strata Shoes. And I would like to just talk about the lack of meaningful feedback from the business community. For many of us, the first time we learned about this project was when your Chief of Staff, Alan, came by with the color copy, which did not even begin to explain the scope and impact. I reached out to Alan after this was up on behalf of a customer who was inquiring about handicap parking. She is in a mobility scooter and has a van driver. Alan told me that he really felt strongly that if we businesses market our products and services correctly, people would be willing to walk from us from roadblocks. To which I would have to respond, my product is wellness shoes for people who have foot problems. The service is that I fit them so that they can walk more comfortably. I think I am doing my job pretty well. We've been here since 1994. And I think it is upsetting that we are asking people to walk when many can't. It's making a pretty big assumption. As there are no students in town, our average population is definitely older, who may have mobility issues. And I thank you for reaching out to me and reinstating 15-minute free parking on my block in front of the store. I have lost a few client meetings because there's been no place for them to easily access my store. And I thought about the numbers very quickly. If my average sale this time of year is $200 and I lose a sale a day, that's $1,000 a week. This project is expected to go on for 10 weeks. That's $10,000, which is ironically about the same amount of money as I received from grants. So I would say, as much as I appreciate what you did for me personally, my success really also depends on the success of the other services and restaurants and businesses in Northampton. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So I want to try to sprinkle in some other hands that are up if I can. I don't know how many folks Peter has queued up there at his kiosk. Peter, how many folks do you have there waiting? Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am, you should be able to unmute at this point. Could you just
Good morning.
identify yourself and the business that you're affiliated with?
My name is Victoria Shake, and I have Zephyr Rugs in Lower Main Street. Yep. And I just came from radiation, so I had to I didn't get anything written down as much because my husband was supposed to do this because Sunday he ended up in the hospital. So a lot going on. So I just wanted to stop and express my my thoughts with our store. I had a lady yesterday that had a stroke, and she has a walker. She came a couple days before that, but there were so many people in front of our store waiting to sit down outside of the restaurant that occupies our frontage, Oriental Taste, the whole frontage. And she left, and then she came back yesterday, and she could hardly get through the barriers there to come into the store with her husband. And we see that happening a lot, and we're losing a lot of customers because of this that's taking place in front of our store. And then we have 15-minute parking, which our customers a lot of them are a little older, and it's not enough time to purchase the rug. It's really squeezing us. We're suffering over there. I just got done with chemotherapy, so I tried to talk to them when I was going through my chemotherapy, and they told me that they had the rights to the streets of Northampton, and there was nothing I could do by having the tent removed and having no one in front of our storefront. So we're just trying to survive. So it saddens me because I've been down there for 10 years, and we have worked very hard, and this is not fair. It's not fair. We need to survive. Everybody needs to survive. It's not fair. I'm sorry, but it's not fair.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
you. And thank you so much, and
Thank you.
take good care. So before the next person sits down, we have Linda Daniels, who's the owner of Northampton Wools, that's has her hand raised, so I want to go over to her.
Thank you, Mayor. If everybody knows where Northampton Wools is, we're on the corner of Pleasant and Armory Street, and we don't have barriers or painting on the sidewalk or the parking down by us yet, but we have felt the impact of this in a number of different ways. Parking has always been an issue in Northampton, and even with the construction of the garage, and I've been there since before the garage was even built, the perception is always that there's a problem parking in Northampton. And we have to pay attention to what the perception is. Now we have complicated that perception by making it even harder for people to park and walk around Northampton. I get that the bikers love it, but bikers are biking. They're not walking and shopping. They're biking through town. They're gone. They don't really count. Of course they love it because it's easier for them now to ride through town. But it's the people who wanted to do curbside pickup, and I've heard from several of my customers that they can no longer feel like it's safe or that they're able to go visit the restaurants and businesses that they want to do curbside pickup with because the parking is such an issue. And I think that's what the main problem with this is. I don't really think that the amount of notice that we got is valid right now, because here we are in this situation, and I think we need to concentrate more on how do we make it work. We all want downtown Northampton to be usable by everyone, walkable by many people, and I think the main goal that we should be striving towards as we move into the holiday season is making sure people know and are aware that Northampton is a place that they can come to, park safely and conveniently, and walk around. And that doesn't necessarily mean parking in front of the business that you want to visit, because that's the ideal. That's what everybody wants, is to be able to park right in front of the store that they're going to. But to encourage people to use the other parking lots in town and finding a way to get them downtown. But this was not the way. This is not pretty. It's not working for our entire population. And I support this removal of them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anyone else queuing up at the pavilion? Okay, here we go. Mark, Pete, sorry. Is there any?
Well, do we have a few more, but we'll let the other people go. So we'll give other people a chance for right now.
Thank you so much, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so are there, on the call, I need to lower this. I want to recognize I want to give preference to business owners. So I see William Basic on the line. Do you want to unmute, Will? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello,
Okay.
thank you. My name's William Basic. I'm the owner of William Basic Fine Arts on Main Street in Northampton. I've worked on Main Street since 1981, and I opened my art gallery in February of 1996. I purchased my space 5 years ago, and I'm now a property owner and taxpayer. I've been on Main Street for over 40 years, and I've owned my own business for over 24. And I've never seen Main Street as inhospitable to visitors as it is right now. The only time I can compare this for a business climate is after 9/11. But even after 9/11, the recovery time was quicker. The combined effects of the pandemic, the changing nature of retail business in general, and the city of Northampton's poorly timed decision to reduce parking on Main Street is causing more harm to businesses than I've ever seen in my over 40 years on Main Street. I understand that creating pedestrian-friendly spaces has a positive effect in other cities. And I don't argue that if it was well-planned and well-timed, that it might also have a positive effect here in Northampton. But the current configuration of concrete traffic barriers on Main Street, reduced driving lanes, and the elimination of parking spaces is neither well-planned and certainly not well-timed. In fact, the timing could not be worse. Sometimes what looks good on a clipboard does not look good in real life. The city should be making every effort for visitors to be able to drive through Northampton and easily find parking, but neither parking nor being able to comfortably walk down Main Street is available to our guests. There's now no dedicated handicap spot on my block. There is a wooden ramp, but it's being blocked by concrete traffic barriers. Bicyclists now have to ride down the sidewalk on my block because the street is too narrow. And I've seen many, many near accidents with bicyclists and skateboarders zooming down the sidewalk and narrowly missing pedestrians. Delivery trucks have to stop and block traffic. I've heard from numerous visitors and clients on their final visit to Northampton that they no longer feel comfortable, safe, or welcome. Mr. Mayor, over 50 businesses is a loud and compelling voice, and I politely ask you to please listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just want to find out, I believe Ryan Merton from The Roost is on the call. Ryan, do you want to unmute?
Hey y'all, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so I'm speaking both as a resident and as a future worker owner of The Roost. And I'd like to speak to those both capacities separately. First of all, speaking as a future worker owner of The Roost, we've seen a strong uptick in business this last week. I don't know where all your numbers up, but we're running about 28% up. So I don't think there's such a definitive downturn. I'd like to speak some cold hard wisdom that we recognize not everyone's going to make it through this downturn. This is a historic downturn, and this is part of the churn. We're going to fight as hard as we can, but we're not under the illusion that anyone has like a God-given grant to do business and succeed. That all said, I want to take a moment to thank Constantine. As a resident, I've been going to Philo's regularly now because I can bike downtown with my daughter. I have 2 kids, both going to the public schools, and we really appreciate being able to comfortably and safely navigate downtown. As someone who's been walking to Woodstar essentially every day since they reopened, I am infinitely thankful for the broader sidewalks. For those of us who are health conscious, wearing masks and concerned about it, having more breathing room really, really counts. And I would much rather have 6 feet of leeway than be able to park closer. To talk strategically, the illusion that any of us are destination stores, I think is false. Because if you are selling a product, then you're actually competing with Amazon and Walmart. And if you're selling food, you're competing with fast food up the street where parking is effortless. So clearly parking is not the only thing we're selling. What we're selling is Northampton, a cohesive, coherent city that has lots of features. And to that extent, what you really want to do is isolate people from their cars. You want them to park up the block. So they walk to the wool store and they think, oh, I'm a little peckish. And they skip across to Familiars and they get something to eat. And then they say like, oh, hey, I have an anniversary coming up. And they hop over to Hanush Jewelry. The illusion that any one spot is what will make or break the city is surely fading. And that it is our unity and the idea that someone can easily traverse from one store to another that will be the lasting benefit of Northampton. I'd also like to say I'm kind of offended to hear that bikers don't count. I am a cyclist who works downtown and shops downtown, and I like to think I count. And I just want to once more reaffirm that many people I've spoken to, residents who, as David had noted, the schools are gone. We are disabused of that illusion. Residents are what going to get us through. Many residents have been actively avoiding downtown because there is not safe leeway to pass on the sidewalks. Maybe I'll take 5 seconds to note that it does feel crazy and claustrophobic in front of like the Fitzwillies Dirty Truth stretch. And I personally now actively avoid that 60 feet because it just feels like a madhouse. And I would like to extend that we at the Roost would love more sidewalk and dedicated bike paths. If you want to kick Route 9 out there, we would love to have more room for people to wait for their orders. And I want to remind everyone that outdoor seating is not going to last and will not get us through this. Outdoor seating ends at the first snowfall. And if you're a business that thinks that's how you're going to float, you need to find some way to do curbside delivery and to get ordering online together. Again, I'll point to Philo's as doing it perfectly. I like to think the Roost is doing pretty well with that as well, but don't expect parking nearby to be the thing that saves you. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Ryan. So I've got 2 other folks who have their hands raised. I don't know if they're business owners or not. First person is Jose Adastra. Jose, I'll ask you to unmute, please.
Hi, thank you. I hope you're all doing well. I think that it was a little bit, I don't know what the business term for ableism is, but to say that these aren't destinations.
We're having trouble hearing you, Jose.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Here, let me just let me know if I break up again or something. We have a lot of unique businesses here. To name a few, Forget Me Not Florist. We have Osaka, you know, the Dirty Truth, you know, the Roost too. Baker's Pin, that awesome kitchen, like there's a bunch of stuff here. Netta's here. We need parking, and to say that parking is something that's not important is a little ridiculous. And to say that people need to get there, you know, people should be getting like a drop-off pickup option. But like, look at that that more senior woman who came earlier from chemo. You know, she's operating a store with her husband who's also elderly. They're not gonna, you know, they're not able to set up, you know, the same things that everyone else is, especially with rugs. They would have to hire more people. So I think that, you know, I'm hearing a lot of the negative feedback and a tiny bit of the positive feedback. Please stop screaming first for like 5 seconds. And I think that it's beautiful and there's lots of space and it's screwing over the businesses. I think that if you can make parking free somewhere and make some free options so that people can come and actually spend their money. Stop ticketing people. I've been trying to go and patronize the businesses as often as I can. And, you know, I've been getting tickets because I forget, you know, to put the damn money in the meter, and I'm trying to spend as much money as I can in town, and they're already ticketing again. And I think that that's ridiculous. It's some solutions. You can make some free parking, make the garage free, make the thing behind Haymarket free, so that people can come and walk around. And I think that what people are talking about, like, it's much better for senior citizens and people that can't walk well to park in a diagonal fashion so they're not getting out on the road. I think that that's kind of a mistake. I think we should take it down immediately. I think that the money that we got from the grant could have housed some of the people on the streets for maybe a year or two. And I think that that's something we should be considering too. We should be considering every aspect of what's going to make the businesses run and make everyone feel comfortable. And part of that is to provide housing for the people that are still on the streets before it gets cold too. And we have the money to do that. We have the will, and it benefits us. Get people in housing, get them some money. And I think that we need to restructure our local budget. I'm sick of seeing my tax money being wasted. Ever since I started working again, I was a stay-at-home dad for years, but ever since I started paying taxes again, I hate to see them wasted. I rather we spent all that money on like coupons and mailed them out or did commercials. Like, I want to see the city cooperating with the businesses. Like, that $30,000 in magazines sent around to the towns here would have gone way farther than these sidewalks. Like, get people some discounts, get them in town so they're in here with the stores, and get some free parking. I think it was like a really nice idea, though. Like, I think that it's unfair not to acknowledge that it's a really nice idea to want to make more space, and that we should still be trying to do that. And if there's any way to preserve some of the space, I think it's a really valuable setup to have that kind of space and to have space for the bikers. So yeah, I think that if there's anything we can do to like keep that cool aspect of this project, like that there's cool space, good biker space, like it would be great. But it's not worth taking the businesses. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for commenting. The other person who's had their hand up is Michael Clare. Michael, I'll unmute you. You just have to unmute yourself.
Done. Thank
Okay.
you, Mayor. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak. I would like to present a somewhat different perspective. First, I want to say to the merchants who are listening, I want every one of you to survive. I want downtown Northampton to be a bustling, successful magnet that we all want it to be. My perspective is that of a pedestrian. I walk into town every day, at least once, sometimes twice, from my residence about 10 blocks from the center of town, and many of my friends do as well. I am a daily shopper in the stores in Northampton. I help keep the stores open. I shop in all of your stores, and I want them to remain open. but I'm a pedestrian. And what I'm hearing a lot of is privileging cars. So yes, I understand that out-of-towners are concerned about shopping, parking places, and I understand that may be important. But I think I'm hearing too much noise about privileging cars downtown and not enough about pedestrians. And I think that it's us pedestrians, us residents of Northampton, those of us who are able to walk, and there are so many of us, and I'm a senior citizen and I walk every day, as do many of my other friends, who want to come into town and to walk and go to cafes and shop in the stores. So I like having more space on the sidewalks because frankly, with COVID, I've found it, I've been uneasy going downtown when the streets weren't wide enough and people were not wearing masks sometimes, and that's made me very uneasy. So I've been happy to have more space downtown, and I feel when I go downtown that there's been a more festive spirit with the painting and the outdoor seating. It's made me want to come downtown more. So I understand the worries of the merchants, but I think you should think about us residents in town who might find this a draw rather than a negative. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for your comments. It looks like we've got somebody queued up at the Main Street kiosk, so I'll ask you to unmute.
Hello, I'm Cuauhtli Hernandez. I'm the owner of Northampton Jewelers. There's a few points I'd like to touch on, some of which I spoke with you a couple of years ago, I think going back about 3 years ago. And we spoke again about 1.5 years ago about some of these very same points. And some of the other points have been touched on by other people here. I'm speaking mostly for other people, and I've listened to what they say. What I do in my business is I listen to what someone wants and I make that product. And I will say 70% of my clients are not from this town and they're not from this valley. They come here, they make an evening of it. Some of them have come here and bought property. One of my best customers has recently said they kind of resent buying the property because of what has happened downtown. I will say that years ago, I have been crippled up sufficiently to where I was not able to move. It's happened a few times in different ways. And when one gets in those positions, it's very easy to understand the issues of mobility and the issues of ADA accessibility. I spoke with you years ago about some of the ways in which you could increase, and your administration, because I understand this is a group and it's a group effort, but so is a city. I spoke with you about ways in which cities in the past have increased foot traffic and business. Some of those are completely contrary to what you've done. Those are accessible. I told you where. I gave you some of the names of some of the cities that have been very successful in that way. And one of which we were dealing with repeatedly outside. I don't know if you can see, but right now there were about 50 people outside. And those 50 people were all business owners. They were not people that were wanting to get on the computer and speak to anyone necessarily, but they are here because they care. It was raining a little while ago and they still stood there. One of those things that they made it difficult to stand out in the street is noise. And noise ordinances are far more useful than this sort of parking as far as increasing business. I spoke with you about architectural issues and the damage done by trucks and jake brakes. And I don't know if you can hear it. Right now, there's one outside. And if he hits his jake brake as he goes to the corner, he's doing damage to the edifice of this town. The edifice of this town is what the businesses depend on. And it's what those customers that come from out of town come here for. The other thing is, you have said that you appreciate much of what has been said, and you've said that before and other times. If one truly appreciates what is being said, they hear it and they act on it. It's not about just letting people speak and say their piece. I'm very much in favor of bicycles. I love bicycles. It's because of bicycles one of the times I ended up in the hospital. And I understand where people are coming from when they talk about wanting to walk. Once you cannot walk for a while and you learn to walk again, it makes it all the more beautiful experience. So I empathize with what is being said by some of those people, but maybe they have not been in that situation where they were not able to move and they needed a vehicle. That's just one issue. The money that was spent could have been spent to make the sidewalk smoother, more accessible, cleaner. And as was touched on by Jose earlier, I think it's important, and I've mentioned it before, winter is coming. You have a lot of homeless people on the street. The economy is definitely not in good shape. This effort is an insult to injury, and it's an insult to those who have endured and paid full rent, mind you, through this entire thing. I have not asked for a dime from anyone, but I have worked all the way through, and I have made it so that my landlord is whole. That, I think, is where most people are, and this is insulting. And to say that one is empathize is appreciating it, it has to be shown. I think you have many people speaking against this. I understand where it's coming from. I'm all about green energy. I'm all about, I pay more so that I use green energy. I don't know why, because it's not functioning at this point. And most of those companies that own it, we can get into a whole nother discussion. So this piece here, I think you've had many people speak, and it's been very clear that everyone is pretty much in the same boat, and they don't want to go down. And I would appreciate very much if you hear what is being said by all of these business owners, not myself, but by the others. And think about those who are laid up and unable to move around. When you design, and not make a situation where an ambulance has to move 30 seconds slower. Everything is about timing. And the timing of an ambulance getting to a hospital 30 seconds later can mean a life. And if that has to maze through this traffic, which I have witnessed, that would be then on the hands of those who have made it difficult. I urge you to act urgently to remove this and change it back to like it was. And as far as the fees, we spoke about that again. We spoke about that earlier. There is a way that you can write down license plate numbers for all of the people who work downtown. And those people can have very inexpensive parking in the distant lots. And this parking, as some parking studies have shown, would benefit if it was free for those who are coming here to shop, at least for 90 minutes. We spoke about all these things. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. So I want to recognize we've got a couple other business owners who are on, have their hands raised. Robbie and Deborah from Eastside Grill, I believe, are on the call, and I'll ask them to unmute.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Robbie. I'm the general manager of Eastside Grill. I just want to speak about the execution of the plan and not having business input from the get-go on the project, because I think there are a lot of issues that slipped through the cracks that we could have helped with from the inception of the plan. First of all, addressing the fact that yes, parking is an issue. Somebody spoke earlier about the perception of parking being a problem. And perception is reality. And Northampton is what we're selling. Collectively as a business community, we need every single business to bring people here for whatever reason. And if time is something that is incredibly important for people, and if time is being wasted trying to find parking, then the reality becomes there is a parking issue. If it's more difficult for people to park, then they've wasted their time, their valuable time. Businesses needed the traffic. We need as many people to come to Northampton, the destination that we're actually selling, to survive. Each business has overhead that they have to clear. If they don't at least make that, then the business will go away. So having that kind of traffic, jamming as many people as we can into this city, keeps any and all business alive, not just the one business that you wanted to visit or the next business that you're like, oh, well, I'm going to happen to go in there. But with the unique opportunity of the bike paths that we do have downtown, we could be driving bike traffic. And driving bike traffic, if we're going to be all in on that, should have an infrastructure as well. Cars need a place to park. Cyclists need a place to park if they're actually going to spend time in downtown and visit all of our business, just like a pedestrian needs to park their self in our seat in the restaurant. So if we're going to be all in the bike plan, and I heard about a month ago, Kristen Sykes mentioned, a member of the biking community, that we need bike racks. If we're going to encourage these people to come downtown, we need them to stay downtown so that we can also use them as customers to be here. So instead of somebody just casually passing through, we need them to be able to park downtown. So if this plan is in place and this is what we're going to go all in on, then we should start working on something that was asked for a month ago. And instead of running up the time that we do have with this project come November and not have given it a fair shake. So businesses being part of the actual collective process we could have discussed getting parking for these bikes in a way that this could be beneficial to getting as many people as we can downtown to support the businesses that need the traffic to survive. Other smaller issues like to-go is our lifeblood right now. It's it is what's paying hopefully for our overhead, making sure this business doesn't go anywhere. But 15-minute parking spots that have been put up. Most restaurants operate after 6 p.m. So having a parking spot that's dedicated to takeout orders was something that was kind of overlooked on the signs that say they're up at 6 p.m. and they become a permanent parking spot. So little nuances of operating how we have been operating have probably been overlooked because we weren't part of the discussion in the first place. So airing our grievances about needing as many people to come to downtown Northampton and how parking is incredibly relevant to that. The study that's been listed here a couple of times said in 6 years, the parking supply here could actually be inadequate. The parking study was kind of done around the 2 apartment buildings being built and what kind of congestion and stress would be placed on the parking that we already had. And this was 5 years before COVID was even in existence. So realizing that businesses need to make X amount of money to survive. And that means we all need X amount of traffic to survive. Northampton's a city of only 28,000 people. Northampton in itself cannot sustain its own businesses. And that means Northampton's a destination that we need people to come to town and stay. We need them to stay and visit as many businesses as possible because we all need a part of what they're coming for. And selling Northampton as a destination is about ease and about making a product that you sell to people and they want to buy your product. And a city is one of those products. Making it easy to obtain your product, which is spending time in Northampton and getting you to stay as long as you possibly can. One of the best things I've heard on this meeting so far was somebody pointing out that maybe we should make the parking garage free for now. I understand that that's revenue that the city desperately needs to continue to operate, but that's the best way to sell the garage. It's, hey, there's parking back there, there's space back there, and it's free. And that's what we need to survive. We need to come together as a business community with the city government and decide what's best for the businesses and what they need to survive to create the vibrancy that we always have had downtown Northampton. So with that said, I wish that the business community always had an input of what would better help us survive and see what we needed to get through this time as it is and work collectively with the cycling community, what we need, and really make something that works for everyone as best as possible. So that's my bit. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Robbie. I have Jennifer Neary also waiting to speak. She's a downtown business person. Jennifer, you can unmute. Are you there, Jennifer? Jen? You're unmuted. Oh, it's okay, no problem.
Oh, no.
All right, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, we have so many microphones. I think I certainly, so I run Clinic Alternative Medicines on Main Street. I'm a member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm pretty in touch with a lot of business owners. Certainly there are attitudes on all sides, but I wanted to represent someone who is a little bit more in favor of the development. This is actually the kind of development that I've been looking forward to for Main Street for decades. I'm a little bit of a nerd about public development and use of cityscapes. So I'm really excited that there's a plan for Main Street, albeit temporary, albeit a little rough, that is accessible to more than just cars, but also pedestrians and bicycles. I don't have a lot to say. I think there's some problems with the process. I think there are definitely some problems with communication, and I would love to see the city do better on both of those scores. But I just have such a quick idea for improving things, which is increase signage, pointing people to the parking that's off Main Street parking. And I guess there's a question for you, Mayor, on where the wayfinding project is at, and whether that's soon to come. So directing people to the off Main parking and making all of the spots on Main Street either 15-minute or handicapped spots, I think would solve many, many, many of these problems. Thanks.
Wayfinding project, we've actually deployed dozens of new wayfinding signs for all of our parking lots all throughout the city. They're all kind of similarly branded, and the follow-on to that will be the electronic signboards, which were also recommended, which will tell people how much vacancy, what the occupancy is in the garage. There'll be ones on Pleasant Street as well as on entrances to Main Street. So that's the situation with the wayfinding. Maybe you haven't noticed them, but next time just take a look around there. I can try to point out some locations or have someone point out some locations, but we've tried to place them all through the city: Conn Street, Pleasant Street, Main Street. They're all similarly branded, and they all, the idea is to direct people to where off-street parking is. So, and we've obviously have our maps and other things that we're constantly pushing out to people. So, but thank you for that. And the idea of all 15-minute and all handicapped is intriguing. Someone mentioned earlier that we should make parking on Main Street free. One of the things that the 2015 study showed was that we were severely undercharging for parking, which is why people could never find a parking space, and people were driving around and around in circles. And then, of course, the challenge is, will they eventually stay or go someplace where they can get more parking, like a mall or a big box store or whatever. So that was one of the elements of the parking study, was they recommended that we actually make Main Street the most expensive parking, because it is the most premium parking, and then price our off-street lots accordingly, increase the times on our off-street lots. Obviously, they also recommended eliminating the garage, the first hour free in the garage, which was not met with a lot of warm thoughts. And so we have maintained the first hour in the garage. So effectively, you can park for 2 hours in the garage for 75 cents, or park on Main Street for $2. And so we've attempted to do that as well and make other changes. So, okay, so are there any other hands? Okay, I see Pete with his hand raised physically.
Right, Mayor, we have a bunch of prepared statements. I will just send those to the city in the interest of time, because we're basically out. The people today here actually have one question they collectively want me to ask you, and we would appreciate if you would answer this question today. Are you willing to work with us to solve this issue, or are you going to let our businesses fail?
And my answer to that is I am more than willing to work with downtown businesses and downtown stakeholders to try to address issues and problems. That's something I'm always committed to. One of the questions I had just thinking about this was the concerns about the loss of the diagonal parking and whether or not being able to restore some of the diagonal parking on both sides of the center of Main Street would be a way to ameliorate some of these concerns. Or is it all or nothing? Because what I'm hearing today from Lower Main Street and Upper Main Street is take out all the blocks. I've heard it from Lower Main Street, I've heard it from Upper Main Street. So one option is I tell the DPW, go downtown and take up every concrete block everywhere in the city and get it out of the public way and restore all public parking. That's going to obviously create some problems for restaurants. So I hear applause out there. That's great. But when I walk through downtown this weekend and I see all of the people that have come to Northampton that are dining outdoors, that are walking outdoors, that are biking outdoors, that gives me concern. It gives me concern for the folks who've now pivoted to do outdoor service, and we'd be effectively taking that away during warmer weather. So my question is there room for compromise where in the middle part of Main Street, where there's a higher concentration of retail, would we be able to rework the project, push in the bike lane, for example, and restore diagonal parking? And obviously we'd be losing some of the public space, but it would be a compromise that would restore more of the diagonal parking, which I've heard people very concerned about. Is that something that people would be interested in working on? Or is it truly, as you present, it must all be removed immediately?
We'd like it gone.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And that's something I can't commit to today. It's something I need to think through and work through. And so that's not something I can make a commitment to today. Have another hand that's been raised. Michael Tetiosian. Sorry if I mangled your name. Michael?
Yeah. Hi. This is Mike. I'm Gary. I opened Synergy in 1998. We opened our first store in Keene and we came to Northampton.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Got it. Terry is here today, our store manager, and Northampton's been a great place for us. It's been a great experience. I appreciate all the input that all the other business owners have brought forward, and I can just agree with a lot of what they've said today. The perception of parking has always been an issue. Unless you're a local and you know all the ins and outs and you know what the other lots are, it's very confusing. We coach customers from out of town and tell them, if you want to make a day of it, park down below. So that perception is always there. I speak to, I live in New Hampshire. We've had just a huge influx of people come up from Connecticut, and this is happening in Vermont too. They drive right by Northampton, and if they come into town and they can't find a parking spot, or they don't think there's any parking, or they're in bumper to bumper traffic in this new pattern that's, it's honestly like it's just everything is just funneled into the one lane and traffic is building up. It's really not worth it. We are facing unprecedented challenges in the retail business. We've always had cost of goods. Our freight has continued to skyrocket. People love shopping on Amazon and getting free Prime. We pay for that. We are now in dimensional shipping because trucks are filled with Amazon product. So who do they pass that cost along to? Small businesses. We're not a business that doesn't take care of our people. We have very high payroll costs in Massachusetts, and we also have a 401k and a profit sharing plan for our people. We value our people more than anything. We are also responsible for part of the taxes in that building that have continued to go up every year since 1998. So we're getting squeezed, and when we have to turn away customers from out of town, that is really taking an additional, we're taking an additional hit. I'm not anti-bike. I went for an hour's bike ride this morning, and you are fortunate. You have great bike paths on both sides of Main Street. I've ridden them. So I don't think I'm taking an anti-bicycle or an anti-pedestrian, but there are people that are older and they aren't considered handicapped, and they don't want to walk further to get to the stores so anyway, I'm going to end it there, but I'd like it removed. I'd like it all removed immediately. I was there Saturday. I did not see one person using the painted area, and I was there for hours. I hardly saw a single bike go by, and I did see bumper to bumper traffic in the road, and it used to flow much better. So I would like it all removed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Zach Smith, we're getting close to the end of our time. Zach Smith, you have your hand raised.
Hi, my name is Annie.
Oh, sorry, Annie.
Computers. My name is Annie Lytle-Rich, and I'm the part owner of Shelburne Falls Coffee and Tart. We have Tart Baking, and we both have locations. And our business was not heavily impacted really either way, other than just being, down from COVID. But I did just want to, I do hear a lot of feedback. I'm in my stores, and we've got stores in East Longmeadow and up in Greenfield and Shelburne, and Northampton is definitely like a big conversation topic amongst our customers overall. And I do want to say that the parking is an issue I hear about, but the resounding thing that I hear about from customers is that they don't want to come to Northampton because they don't feel safe. And they don't feel safe for a variety of reasons, but a big thing with COVID, is with people not wearing masks downtown, or panhandlers not wearing masks downtown. There not being a lot of room. And I think that having that bigger space it has been a step forward to that, to people feeling more safe. And I also want to say that the bigger thing that I hear people talking about is just the negative press or the negative energy in Northampton, that it is not making them feel, excited to go out no matter what's happening. And so just for me, what I'm hearing, what I would like to see, regardless of what happens, is that there's effort spent on getting positive press and positive energy and highlighting the positives of Northampton. Because I feel like when I'm in East Longmeadow, and like when I said, when I'm in Greenfield and I'm talking to customers, I feel like I'm having to defend Northampton a lot, that they're just, there's just a lot of negativity. And so that to me is what I've heard from community members, and just hoping that, whatever we choose to do happens quickly and happens definitively, and is something that we put out to the community as being something that is going to get people really excited to come to town. So that was I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's come on this morning to give us feedback, and obviously all the business owners who've taken time out of their schedule. Peter, I see you waving, but you've actually spoken 3 times, and we're at time. So I'm happy to have you call me or send me some other information. Well, I'll unmute you, but I really need it to be quick because we're trying to wrap up.
Mayor, I'm going to ask you, for the sake of all our businesses, to undo this immediately. You implemented it overnight. You can take it away overnight. So please think of your businesses. Let us trust you. Do the right thing. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so again, I appreciate all this feedback. I'm going to take it back to my team, and we're going to take it under advisement. And I'm going to, continue to think through what we can do here in terms of addressing the concerns that we're hearing. And again, I think there's essentially there's sort of two options really. One option is to basically remove everything on Upper, Lower, and Middle Main Street, and the other option is to try to see if there's ways that we can restore some of the parking and still create some of the social distancing space. So I want to take a look at what those options are. And my pledge to you is that I'll try to report back out to the community at the beginning of next week on what direction we'd like to move toward, and then obviously work with the business community in trying to address that. So thank you all again for joining. Again, the meeting is recorded. If folks weren't able to attend, they can watch it. They can also continue to send comments. We do have a survey up as well. So we encourage people to continue to give us feedback. And again, I just want to close by saying that I care very deeply about this COVID-19 crisis, and obviously not only the health impact, but the impact that it's had on our local economy. That was actually the crux of the application, and it's the same application that other communities around the state are applying to Mass DOT for, is part of the economic recovery and social distancing, trying to create more space so they can encourage people to come back down into their downtowns and to support local businesses. So I just want to reiterate that that was the sole goal of this project. And obviously we want to make sure that we're achieving that goal. And so if we hear that there's negative impacts, we want to address them. So thank you again for joining us. And again, I'll be reaching back out to the community early next week. Thank you all.